Kennedy, member of the Senate Appropriations Committee and Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, thanks for being here this morning. So your reaction to calls from the chairman of that committee to push to get the president's tax returns?
I mean, no disrespect to Chairman Neal, but I'm going to be very blunt. Chairman Neal says that he needs to see the president's tax returns for policy. He says it's not politics. He says that he needs to see Trump's tax returns so he can evaluate how well the IRS is conducting audits. Now, if Chairman Neal believes that the American people themselves are going to actually believe that, then he's like a rock, only dumber. It must suck to be that dumb. So everybody knows what's going on here, including the media that is breathlessly reporting this story. Chairman Neal, he wants to screw with Trump. He doesn't like the fact that the American people elected Donald Trump. Well, you know, cry harder, princess. I mean, words can't express how much I don't care. Chairman Neal doesn't get to veto the choice of the American people. This is wildly dishonest to weaponize the IRS. I mean, what's next from Chairman Neal? Is he going to subpoena the First Lady and say, I'm investigating the institution of marriage and I want to ask you personal questions about your marriage under oath?
And Senator,
I mean, this should offend. This should offend everyone, and I don't,
sure.
I don't mean disrespect, but you got to call what really upsets me as much as anything is how stupid he thinks the American people are. And it's a problem all through Washington.
But
most Washington insiders think they're smarter and more virtuous than the American people.
Yes, Senator, your sentiment is reflected by the president's attorneys who called it gross abuse of power for the majority party to use this for politics to attack the president. But every candidate that's run for president has released them. The president says he's audited. Do you believe ultimately the president should release his taxes?
Look, if I were running for president, I'd release my taxes. It'd be a big yawn-a-thon. But when the president ran for president, he said, I'm not releasing my taxes. He didn't have to give a reason. He said, the reason is I'm under audit, but I'm not releasing them. The American people knew that when they voted for him or didn't vote for him. There's no law that says a presidential candidate has to release his taxes. Most do, but you don't have to. And so now at this point, to try to weaponize the IRS and say you're doing it for, quote, policy, not politics, nobody believes that. I mean, absolutely nobody believes that.
Senator, to shift topics a little bit, you've put forth a very important bill related to victims of sexual harassment, saying they should not be silenced behind NDAs. Talk a little bit about why this is important and what the bill actually hopes to accomplish.
Well, this is no country for creepy old men or young men or middle-aged men. My bill's simple. It says if you work for the state or federal government and you are sued for sexual harassment and you settle the lawsuit, you can't put in a non-disclosure agreement unless the victim wants one. The taxpayers are entitled to know. And even if you're not using taxpayer money to settle the lawsuit, if you're a public official, the voters are entitled to know that these allegations have been made. I'm not trying to deny anybody due process. Just because you're accused of something doesn't mean you're guilty of it. But if you settle a sexual harassment lawsuit and you work for the state or federal government, people are entitled to know unless the victim doesn't want to.
All right, Senator Kennedy, thank you very much. Always the quotable. It would be a yawn-a-thon if you released your taxes. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Senator.
And email us at friends.